The Middle East is currently on fire. The global economy is in a stranglehold, but what will this mean for your digital asset portfolio? In this second part to our look at the situation in the Middle East, we examine the ramifications and its impact on the worlds of decentralized finance and artificial intelligence. This is the AIA Uncut podcast, and let's dive right in.
But while the geopolitical alliances might resemble the 20th century, the mechanics of how this war is actually being fought right now are entirely unprecedented. We're looking at AI-powered warfare happening as a recent Wired report phrased it faster than the speed of thought. In just the first 12 hours of the conflict, the U.S. and Israel coordinated almost 900 individual precision strikes on Iranian targets.
The sheer volume of those strikes is only possible because they're reportedly using Palantir's AI system, which is built on Anthropic's Claude AI model. The system doesn't just look at maps. It identifies targets, recommends the specific weaponry needed to penetrate a bunker, and even evaluates the legal grounds for a strike under international law, calculating estimated collateral damage radiuses all in real time.
I really have to challenge the safety of this because it introduces a highly alarming concept academics refer to as decision compression. Think about how military planning used to work. Commanders would have weeks, or at least days, to debate a strike package over endless cups of coffee weighing the geopolitical fallout. Now, military planning has collapsed from weeks to minutes. The AI spits out a target, coordinates the payload, calculates the civilian casualty ratio, and asks for a signature before the commander has even fully processed the context.
It leads to what researchers call cognitive offloading.
Exactly. When a human operator is given a 5-second window to evaluate a highly complex AI target recommendation, they aren't actually making a decision anymore. They're just rubber stamping the machine's output because the AI has already done the heavy analytical lifting. The human is just an illusion of control.
The corporate dynamics behind this technology present a massive ethical paradox, too. Prior to these strikes, Anthropic explicitly refused to allow their Claude model to be used for fully autonomous weapons. Because they drew that line in their terms of service, the U.S. government officially banished them from certain defense systems. Yet, according to the March reports, the military infrastructure is so heavily reliant on Claude that it is still in active military use right now during this phase-out period.
And OpenAI immediately swooped into that vacuum. Recognizing the massive defense contracts at stake, they signed a major deal with the Pentagon to replace Anthropic's infrastructure. It highlights a massive contradiction for the tech industry and a real irony for you, the listener. The companies that loudly brand themselves as building safe AI are simultaneously the primary engines enabling this rapid-fire precision warfare.
Right.
Meanwhile, Iran has publicly announced they use AI in their drone targeting systems.
Yeah.
But compared to the sophisticated capabilities of the U.S. and Israel, Iran's AI infrastructure is practically negligible. The stark asymmetry we saw in their physical geography is perfectly mirrored in their technology.
Let's look at how that advanced technology actually gets built, because this is where the physical reality of the war crashes directly into the digital world. The Wired report exposes a massive hidden constraint in the global tech supply chain: helium.
Helium. Most people associate that with party balloons. How does that impact the devices the listener actually relies on?
It's absolutely critical for manufacturing advanced semiconductors. It's used for cooling the fabrication equipment and maintaining hyperstable temperatures during the delicate silicon etching process. And there's currently no known chemical substitute for helium in these high-end fabrication environments. The critical data point here is that Qatar produces 38% of the world's helium, and as of early March, Qatar Energy has just officially declared force majeure.
For the listener, declaring force majeure is essentially pulling the act of God ripcord in a corporate contract. Qatar Energy is legally halting all operations in global helium shipments indefinitely due to the regional conflict, and they're doing so without any legal liability to their buyers downstream.
Right. And to answer your question about how this impacts devices, South Korea's Samsung and SK Hynix produce roughly two-thirds of the world's memory chips. These are the chips inside your smartphone, your laptop, and the servers powering the internet. Those specific companies rely on the Middle East for over 14 critical chip-making materials, including helium and bromine. If you cut off the helium supply, those multi-billion-dollar fabrication plants simply cannot function. The global assembly lines stop.
You also have to factor in the sheer energy requirements of making these chips. Fabrication plants demand massive, constant electricity. With Brent crude surging past $80 a barrel and the Strait of Hormuz closed, global energy costs are spiking dramatically. This energy squeeze is happening at the exact moment that massive AI data centers are already stretching the global chip supply to its absolute limit.
To make matters worse, tech giants like Amazon, Microsoft, and Nvidia have been pouring billions into expanding their AI computing infrastructure in the UAE. Those massive new data centers are now actively sitting right in the crosshairs of this conflict.
Which brings us to the ultimate devastating irony of this entire situation.
Artificial intelligence is currently being utilized at lightning speed to execute this war.
Yet the war itself is actively destroying the physical supply chain, the cooling materials, and the energy grid required to build and run more AI.
It is a catastrophic technological feedback loop. If the physical energy grids and supply chains are literally going up in smoke, what happens to the financial systems that rely on them? The March 2026 data shows the crypto markets are stepping into this void in a major way. Let's examine Bitcoin's reaction to the outbreak of the conflict, because it displayed a fascinating dual personality.
It really did. When the news of the initial strikes broke, Bitcoin behaved exactly like a traditional risk asset. Panic selling hit the market, and it dropped 4.5% down to $66,000. But almost immediately after that initial shock, it rapidly rebounded to $68,900.
Institutional and retail buyers rushed back in, treating it as a safe haven hedge against the geopolitical chaos. And we're seeing a real-world stress test of this concept inside Iran right now. Bloomberg reported that Iran has a $7.8 billion crypto market. As traditional banking systems face massive disruptions from the conflict and severe international sanctions, peer-to-peer crypto trading is violently spiking inside the country.
Everyday citizens are utilizing decentralized networks to store and move value because the physical banks are failing them. This is real-time, real-world proof of the demand for borderless, censorship-resistant money during a severe crisis.
The contrast between the geography of these two financial systems is staggering. We established earlier that the petrodollar, the very foundation of the U.S. economy, depends entirely on a physical 33-kilometer waterway that is currently closed and militarized. The global fiat banking system, the SWIFT network, it's all irrevocably tied to vulnerable physical geography. Crypto and decentralized finance, or DeFi, have absolutely zero geographic vulnerability.
Decentralized protocols don't care about national borders, and they certainly don't declare force majeure. They run 24/7, globally, regardless of geopolitics. Right now, digital stablecoins, which are tokens pegged directly to the value of a US dollar, are providing people in these conflict zones with vital access to stable currency. Think about the physical alternative. If your city is under bombardment, you can't exactly walk down to the local ATM to withdraw physical cash, assuming the ATM even has power or hasn't been emptied.
Exactly. Decentralized networks completely bypass the need for physical cash or traditional, highly vulnerable banking infrastructure. It fundamentally changes how we view systemic risk on a global scale.
It leads to a core question, and I want to pose this directly to you, the listener. If the physical geographic system propping up the global reserve currency is this incredibly fragile, dependent on a tiny, straight, vulnerable coastal desalination plants and imported food, how should we be thinking about the future of money?
That is the critical takeaway, because as we pull all these March 2026 sources together, a unified theme emerges. The technology we build isn't about convenience, it's about removing catastrophic points of failure.
I'll leave you with one final provocative thought to mull over. We've mapped out the broken supply chains, the AI-driven warfare, and the shifting banking landscape. But what if the real legacy of this war isn't just a shift in military superpowers? What if this is the exact moment humanity realizes that geography itself is an obsolete foundation for global infrastructure? If artificial intelligence and decentralized money can survive a world war that physical supply chains and shipping lanes cannot, then the next global empire won't be built on land or water at all. It will be built entirely in the cloud.
Thank you for joining us on this deep dive. Keep questioning the systems around you, and we'll catch you next time.